Hello and welcome to today's talk, folks. This is yours truly, Randy Rand, and today we spoke to Dr. Roma Benjamin out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, who, as it turns out, is from Mount Vernon, New York, so she's a homegirl of mine. And one particular thing that's interesting about Dr. Benjamin is that she was once an administrator, and she resigned her position as an administrator before she had time, to resign and, live her life the way that she wanted to. She resigned her position as an administrator and opened up some reading centers out in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and the surrounding area to combat the problem of illiteracy. And that's what we discussed today, is illiteracy. And it's a very good interview, and it went a bit long, but it's certainly worth it. And I think you need to listen to it as she discusses and describes, different ways that we can move forward with regards to addressing this problem of illiteracy. Thanks. Okay, and we're back. Welcome to today's show, today's talk. I'm your host, Randy Rand, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Roma Benjamin. She's the former principal of Roland School in Harrisonburg, Pennsylvania. She's also the pastor and founder of the Roma Benjamin Ministries and Greater Faith Ministries of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. How are you doing today, Dr. Benjamin?
I am doing so well, Randall. How are you?
I am very good. I can't complain, and certainly if I did, nobody would listen, so I'm not going to complain.
No complaints here either.
Oh,
None.
that's good. That's good. We're all in one accord. Why don't we get to it and do it? And why don't you introduce yourself to Westchester and Dutchess County?
Oh, I'm from Mount Vernon, New York, so I'm aware of the Westchester and Dutchess County. A lot of family and very dear friends in the Westchester from Mount Vernon. I've been in ministry for 15 years. This is my 15th year anniversary pastoring. I'm an educator as well. Been in that 20 plus years, and in the public school, in urban schools. And the Lord led me in 2013, the end of 13 into 14, to pull out of the public school because of the strong epidemic of our kids not being able to read. But at that time, I didn't know why I was pulling out. I just heard him say that he was taking me out. And so I retired, not being of age, nor having the years. So I don't have a full pension, but I have a full heart of obedience and to address this crisis that we're in and dealing with illiteracy and giving an open door for children as well as parents to be able to read and read above their grade level. So it's been a journey. It's been a tedious journey, but it's well worth the time and effort of what I'm doing. Like I said, I've been an administrator. I was the top paid administrator here in the city of Harrisburg. Top paid administrator. Thought I was on my way to eventually being superintendent in some district, and the Lord changed that course for me to really address a major situation that goes on a regular basis where our children are passed through the system and they come out, sir, and they still can't read. I'm from a public school person, so I am not a basher of the public school, but I do know that the public school can't do it by themselves. So, yes, I'm from New York, went to Pace College, went to Good Counsel College, was in church musician while I was there as well. So, yes, I'm from money earning Mount Vernon.
Now, with regards to you spoke a moment ago about you were on the track to possibly being a superintendent in a school district there in Pennsylvania, or at least somewhere. And
yeah, I was pursuing that, absolutely.
Okay, and you saw the need, okay, for what you're doing now. What I want you to do is take us through what your thought process was as you left your position as an administrator to pursue what you're doing now.
Well, my thought process was actually, Randall, I was going to open a school, and I got in touch with Yusef Salam, who is the publicist of Dr. Steve Perry, and I sent an email into Dr. Steve Perry wanting to go in to observe his charter school, which is in Connecticut, because I met him when he came to the school district that I was working for. I met him, had a chance to talk with him, and I thought it was very prophetic and it was very profound to meet him. And Youssef called me, and we had a very long conversation, and he challenged me. He just simply said to me, he said, listen, we get hundreds of these calls, but I really feel the need to talk to you, to help you. He said, but let me ask you a question. Why are you going to do the same thing by opening up a school right now when you know those kids in school can't read? And so I was like, man, this guy, who is he? Who do you think he's talking to like this on the phone,
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? You're 100% correct. You're right. I said, because I've been in this fight for years. I've been in it for years. I've worked with kids I know that's in the 7th, 8th grade, 6th grade, reading 2 and 3 grades below grade level, could not read, that I took personal time, my own money to teach them how to read. Some of them have come back and told me, and I didn't even realize that I had been doing that all along with several kids. And when he said that to me, I felt in my heart, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to address literacy. How do I build literacy, and how do I get this message across, especially to the church? Because we have power and authority to do this and make changes in the realm and in the field of education, and not leave this dependent upon the school system itself. So I just began to start the process, and I talked to my church about it. I went to my church with the vision. I went to them with the mandate that I felt that God had given me. And I went to the children in my church, and I told the parents, I'm going to test the kids here first, and I'm going to deal with the children in my church first. And I did. And what happened was the word got out, because I did not publicize it. I was just looking at, how do I start this? How do I start this process? How do I pursue this? How do I do this? Because this is not something that's going to be one and done. This is not something I'm going to start and stop. This is the next phase in my life. And I tested the children and found out that several of the kids were reading below grade level, had behavior problems, and the behavior problems were rooted in the fact that they were not on grade level or above grade level readers.
Wow. And
it just began like that. And then I started getting people from other churches asking me to take their children because they knew me in the public school system. Mm-hmm. They knew I was no nonsense. They knew I was there. My heart was there for the kids. Anybody who were in my buildings, I did high school, I did elementary, I did middle school, and I had alternative ed. And anyone who knew me, they knew I was for real. I didn't allow kids to fail and play on sports teams, because they had a winning record and the child is failing. I didn't let them cross the stage when they had F's and give them something at the last minute so they could get their name called out and have a graduation party. So I'm not playing with this. So I knew it was real because I went to my church first. And now, Randall, what has happened is I go to churches. I go to churches across the board. I talk to churches across the United States. I talk in different areas. And I'm on the radio now and on magazines. I go to daycares. I explain to them the situation, the crisis that we're in. Because, Randall, we're not in it's not an education problem. It's really not an education crisis. It's a reading one.
Wow.
It's a reading one. It is a reading. We've been calling it an educational crisis, but it's really a literacy crisis. Mm-hmm. And our kids are coming out, they're coming out with what we call a diploma, and there is no proof, that they can even operate in today's world outside of the minimum wage and compete with the foreign kids, with the Caucasian kids, with the kids from the suburbs.
Yes.
It's going to be very difficult for them to compete. So I appeal to the pastors to understand the system that we're in and how do we as the church turn around and provide a small environment. I call small the new mega. A small environment where kids can be safe to say, my kids came in saying, I can't read. I have parents now that tell me, Pastor, you helped my child. My child was a behavior problem. My child was this. My child was that. And come to find out, the root of the problem was their lack of reading. They weren't proficient. They weren't on grade level. And you know, Randall, I say this, a lot of times we get this information and say kids are reading 2 and 3 grades below their grade level. Well, my goal is to get out information that says kids are now reading 2 and 3 grades above their grade level, not just on it. And so this is what I have been doing since 2014 when I put in the official retirement. I've been doing this on a steady basis. So now I'm working with daycares in the area. I have 2 daycares right now that I've placed a literacy program in to address children at the ages of 4 and 5.
Good. Good.
You know, because most of the damage that takes place with our children is not in high school, it's in the elementary grade.
Exactly.
And so by the time they get to high school, you know, not saying that all teachers are bad, but by the time they get to middle school and high school, you're basically putting a Band-Aid on what needs to be operated and removed.
I must say that it is quite refreshing to hear an administrator say that, you know, if the student doesn't meet certain academic requirements, that there are some consequences as instead of social promoting or social promotion. You know, I've seen quite a few times where, say, you know, students all year long did nothing but, you know, mess around and do everything under the sun other than learn or attend class or whatever. And at the end of the year, they have this great big party, or, you know, where there's nice cake and refreshments, and they get these bogus certificates, and, you know, and that's it. And we'll call it a day. And then they're out to go and compete in a world that they are no more qualified to do than something flying, you know. It's very
Exactly.
it's very refreshing to hear that. Now, when you did leave, when you did do the early retirement, that incorporated some small sacrifice, did it not?
No, you're exactly right, because, Randall, I'm not old enough. I don't have the age to retire. You know, there's a certain age you get a full pension.
Exactly.
And then there are years, you know, 30-something years, and I don't have 30-something years. So it's been a tremendous sacrifice. And now I left a 6-figure job to literally address this on a whole different plane, because I recognize that I have both the spiritual and the academia.
Yes.
So I have the power, along with others that I will be connecting with and working with, to really bring change in this system that produces failure. And failure seems to be okay. You know, people say failure is not an option, but they continue to pass kids that are failing.
Yes.
So it has become an option. You know, just as in our day and age, you know, they have marches whenever a child is murdered, and we have a lot of murders, a lot of killings around here, believe it or not, in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And it's the capital of the state of Pennsylvania. We have a lot of killings, and, you know, they have a lot of marches. And so I come out challenging. I said, for every march, somebody, a church or a community center, you should let me come in and open up a literacy center, because I can promise you, if we address this issue that our kids cannot read, they would make better decisions.
Yes.
You understand? At least they will have hope to know that you don't have to lean to the street. Even though they say you make more money in the street, you make more money in the street. Okay, but you won't live to see it. So
That's
at
right.
least they have hope, you know, to know that I can make money and I could do it the right way. We're giving them hope. And then now, you know, they have, you know, Black Lives Matter. Well, if Black lives really matter, and I'm not, you know, saying that there are not injustices. There are. Racism is a part of the heart condition. So we're not going to be able to get rid of that unless we cut everybody's heart out.
Yeah, okay.
Because we all deal with some type of element of racism.
Yes.
You know, but when you want to hurt somebody because of the color of their skin or their gender or their beliefs or whatever, you're in cruelty. But I always say, if Black lives matter, then let's open up reading centers. If Black lives really matter, you know, because when we get to the root of this, and you realize we got to teach our children at a young age. You can't go up against an authority with a gun. You
No.
got to be smart enough to know and have a smarter conversation than no to somebody who can pull a gun and say, I felt my life was in danger and kill
Yeah.
you. You
Yeah.
know, so if Black lives really matter, and I challenged, I was on another radio station, I said, if Black lives really, really matter, then let's open up literacy centers and deal with this, because, you know, we can't expect the school to do it by themselves while they're doing social studies, science, math, and all that. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't have a problem with that. But if you can't read, if you understand what I'm saying,
Yep.
if you can't read, which means comprehend as well, if you can't, then all that is that you're going through a course. You're in the fifth grade, you read on a third grade level, they give you a fifth grade level book, and you end up shrinking back. So by the time you get to the 10th grade, nobody really knows that you can't read. And then all they do is plan to see how do we get all these kids out of high school and get them a diploma, which really doesn't take them anywhere else, because a college entrance exam calls for more than having a diploma.
Now, I read in your biography that you have a quote unquote no nonsense approach to very sensitive and difficult situations that need to be addressed.
Yes.
What are some of those difficult situations that you address?
Well, one of them is this literacy situation that we're dealing with. It's a I feel it's a diabolical scheme of the enemy that our children, even in 2015, I was just talking with the principal of an activity school, and he said to me they made progress, but he said in the next breath, and he have all boys, he said, but they still can't read. And a lot of times our parents would buy a pair of sneakers or the latest outfit before they would invest in getting their child what they need to read. I've had parents tell me that I have a minimal fee, and they would say, no, I don't have it, but you're on Facebook and you're on your cell phone having all kind of conversations and what you're doing, and you're flashing what your child is wearing, and your child can't read.
Yeah.
And so they create prisons. They create prisons based on the standardized test scores of third and fourth grade children.
Yep.
So, you know, if you don't invest in your child reading, somebody has a bed waiting for them, because they know usually, you know, when you do the research, you know, they say about 89% of African American children, especially males, can't read. So, you know, they know that crime, you know, and operating in the streets is their greatest option. Well, those are very sensitive areas, because when I talk to parents don't like to hear that they're held accountable and responsible as well.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? They don't like to hear that you don't need to go up to the school and cuss the principal out and cuss the teachers out, because you want somebody to give your child a passing grade and they did nothing all year.
Yeah, I've seen it.
This is very sensitive.
Who or what are the culprits in this present day malfeasance in educating our children?
And let me tell you something, and we all are to blame. When you look at our school systems, and we basically keep a teacher just because of a union contract, and you know that teacher is marginal, you know that teacher is using the same lesson plans for the last 15 years. The only thing they change on it is the date and the names of the kids in their classroom. I've seen it happen. You know, when we have administrators who are so inundated with just trying to keep up and go in classrooms and monitor marginal teachers and trying to figure out how to get them out, and you're missing the real deal, which is the child. You know, and then you have the legislator who sometimes, most of the time, is clueless of what's really going on in the system, you know, and they create little pockets of this and little pockets of that, and they give money here and there, but they really don't know, you know. Then you have parents who are just not involved. You know, you have parents working 2 and 3 jobs, or you have parents who are in, you know, relationships that, you know, take away from their children, and they're more focused on this and that, you know. And then the church is part of the issue as well. You know, we have our services, and we're comfortable with having our services, and our children are suffering because the number of kids not being able to read, the statistical data that says that our kids can't read, it includes the kids in the church.
Yeah.
And these kids are not our next They're not our next generation leaders. They are our now generation leaders.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
So there are a lot of people involved in this whole thing. That's why somebody has to take a stand and say, okay, that's why I say enough is enough. I'm not going to sit around any longer and say, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. I've got me a handful of young people. I train them. I meet with them on a regular basis, how to go in. They don't have degrees of reading and doctor's degrees. They don't have the degrees that I have. And I teach them. I said, listen, we have a mandate. We have a mission to change the lives of children. And at the same time, you could grow and develop in this. So there are a lot of entities in this, Randall. The media is part of the issue. We magnify foolishness and negative things, and kids think that that's the way they should go. We magnify people who say they never could read, but they're making millions of dollars. There's a lot of there are a whole lot of things, sir, that is involved in the demise of this issue. It really is, but we can turn it around.
We're speaking with Dr. Roma Benjamin. She's the former principal of Roland School in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and she's also the pastor and founder of the Roma J. Benjamin Ministries and Greater Faith Ministries of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Dr. Benjamin, what type of policies would you endorse to combat illiteracy as well as the school-to-prison pipeline?
Well, one of the things that I would do, and I've had this conversation with educators and with spiritual leaders, one of the things I would do is I would somehow create, if not learning centers that focus mainly on literacy. Randall, when we try to put so much in it, when we're trying to make kids do homework that they can't read, when we're trying to make them, be a mathematician and the things that, we say we want to be a doctor, but you have to be able to read. You have to have the fundamentals of reading.
Yes.
And I would want to mandate centers especially in urban areas, that focus mainly on this situation, on this crisis, where kids are going in and they're getting intensive reading at least an hour and a half on a daily basis, instead of demanding that they, at least the first 2 or 3 years of school, especially for our schools that are failing. Most of the schools in the urban districts, and when you do the research, they're failing. So why are they failing? Because you take a reading and a math standardized test. Well, if you don't have what it takes to read and understand it, we're going to keep testing our kids until our kids become immune to the test.
Yes.
So what do? Then we teach to the test a few months before the test, and it's still failure. And then we go back to the same thing. School is out. Then everybody have those free school things, free bags, book bags, free supplies, and we go back to the same thing, and our kids are still struggling. They can't read. So I would come up with some type of policy that deals specifically with literacy for a certain amount of time, so each child is able to read at least 1 to 2 grades above their grade level. That's what because when you deal with behavior, Randall, most of the time when you get down to the real core of it, they can't read.
You can't read.
And they can't read well. They can't read. When you get down to the real core of it, and some of the kids, they'll just I'll tell you, I had a kid in the program. He said to another kid who came, a new kid, and the kid was reading terribly. And he said, listen, when you read, say your words out loud so we can help you as well. He said, because when I came, I was reading just like you. He said, but now I can read. And that kid was in the 3rd grade who told him that.
Wow.
He's in the 3rd grade in the suburbs. He's not even in one of the urban districts. He's in the suburbs. And that's exactly what he told. And his mother told me they wanted to put him in some type of special ed class, and they never did. I said, no, don't put him in the special ed class, because it's going to be hard to get that off of him. I said, leave him with me. I start back September 8th. He already called. She said, my son will be in the program September 8th. Even the dad came in and said, Pastor Benjamin, what can we do to help you? Because my son has changed totally and completely. Even the teacher. How about this, Randall? The teacher said, "Where is he going? What is he doing? Because he's reading. He couldn't read when he came." How does a third grade teacher say that?
Yeah. How does any teacher say that?
You understand? That's what you call like a oxymoron.
Yeah.
You're there to teach. So even if you have to put that um, pacing guide down, if you gotta eliminate social studies or science or something, and you know that child can't read, and they still just getting a worksheet or a coloring book, and you still coloring turkeys at Thanksgiving and Santa Claus at Christmas, something's wrong.
Yeah, something's wrong.
Something is wrong, Randall. And I would love someday to get in a governmental position to really talk about how do we incorporate intensive reading where it's no longer you pass because you're too old to be in that grade. You can't move out till you're 2 grades above in reading. That's where I want to go. That's what I would like to do in policy.
In your opinion, is there more of a need for a public information crusade about the prison industrial complex?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because when I go to the prisons, sir,
Mm-hmm.
the majority of them are illiterate.
Everything comes to illiteracy. I've interviewed a few people like yourself here recently, certainly recently, and over a number of years, and it all comes back down to illiteracy. And I tell you the truth, I'm not going to mention the school district, but I've worked in special ed for the past 25 years, and um, these kids come to us. They come to us. We're a district where we serve kids from different districts, and
Hmm.
these kids come to us on the middle school level, high school level. They can't read. They cannot read, and there are a lot of them that I know of. Not most of them, but certainly a lot of them that don't meet with any kind of success. Instead, they meet with death, and they meet with incarceration,
You're
and
exactly right.
they can't read.
I have a young man in my center last year when he first started. He was the first kid I tested, and he was in the 6th grade, I believe, or the 6th grade, 5th grade. And when he entered into the 6th grade, sir, he was suspended every day, every week when his parent would bring him back. A week later, he would be back out again. They had him in emotional support class. He was tearing up the classroom. And when I took him in, and he's a member of my church, and I
Mm-hmm.
told his mother, I said, give him to me.
Mm-hmm.
When he came in my center and he started acting like he was crazy, I said, listen, let me explain something to you. You will lose your seat here because I'm not playing with you. I said, because your problem is you need help in reading. You need help to make better decisions, and they'll take you out of that special ed classroom when you feel better about yourself. How about this whole past year? He's not been suspended one time. His grades went from F's, D's, and F's. He's like at a B plus student. He grabbed me the other day because I was out of town. I was out of the country, and he said, Pastor, I miss you. I miss you. I said, how's school? He said, I'm doing much better. I have a teacher that I understand and I'm working with, and we open back up September 8th, and
Mm-hmm.
he's excited to start back in the center. He reads to most of the younger kids because he's now in the 7th grade,
Good.
and I'm working with the mother. I'm advocating with the mother to remove him, the mother and father, to now remove him out of the emotional support class.
Oh, well, good, because a lot of these kids that I work with, there are all kind of labels thrown on them: emotionally disturbed and conduct disorder. That's my favorite, conduct disorder.
Yeah, conduct disorder.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, I love that tag. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I look at the kid, and I'm in a position where I'm not an administrator. I'm not even a teacher. And I have to do my job, and certainly I do it to the best of my ability. But I look at this, and I've been looking at it for the God knows how many years now, and it is a shame. It is a crying shame when they slap this tag of special ed, conduct disorder, and all of these other tags. It's hard to get those tags removed, and that's one
It's
thing.
very difficult.
Yeah, and it's one thing that these kids, the kids, I mean, what do they understand? But the parents, it's hard. I wish somebody would pull them aside and say, listen, you might be serving a good, whatever that good is for you right now, but that good, I guarantee you, is very temporary. Because right now, your child may be, 9, 10, 13 years old. One of these days, they're going to be 23 and 25. And where are they going to be? Where are they going to be?
Exactly.
You know?
And Randall, what's really sad when you talked about that conduct disorder and intellectually deficient, they have so many acronyms on these kids. And what's really strange about it is when you walk in the classroom, you got a teacher who's scared to death of the kids.
Yep.
And they just give them a worksheet, and then you got an aide sitting in the back of the room on the phone.
Yeah.
So is it really the conduct of the kid?
Yeah.
Are we really dealing with a child's conduct? Or are we dealing with a system that does not believe that we could really teach our kids, especially African American kids, how to read? Slavery said, no matter what you do, learn how to read, because real freedom is not because you're not in chains. Real freedom is because you have the ability to use your mind to get out of circumstances and situations. And they always told them in slavery, if you don't get anything else, be able to read, because that's your ticket to freedom. But we're not giving that to our kids anymore.
No.
We're not giving them. That's why I'm challenging the church. I'm challenging the church. Hey, we got to be on a mission with this thing. Spiritually and academically, we have to do this. I was in a church in Florida, and I was talking about this, and a little boy said, Pastor, that's me. That's me. I got left back. I'm in the first grade because I can't read. That's what he said to me.
Wow.
So when I told the pastor and the pastor's wife, they said, he's so bad. I said, he's not that bad. He just can't read. He just told me. He was left back in the first grade. The kid is telling me. He said to me, Pastor, can you help me? Can you talk to my grandmother? Can you help me? And I'm talking to the pastor and them, and they're not even aware. You put the label of bad on him.
Mm-hmm.
He's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
He's crying out for help. He can't read. We got to turn this around. And when I say we, Randall, I'm really talking about the church.
Yeah.
I'm really talking about the church. Instead of bringing the kids, how in this day and age, our young men are dying and young women now, but they're dying, and they bring them to church to be buried. Well, I said, don't bring them to me to bury them. Bring your kids to me to build them up, to prepare them, to make sure that they have what they need to survive and succeed. Because, burying them, there's nothing I can do. You can say all you want. Bring them to me before this, so that this does not happen.
I am a big proponent of black people, whether through the churches or otherwise, developing their own schools. And you've pretty much told me your thoughts about this, but I'll add, I did an interview a couple of weeks ago, and I was saying something I saw on Facebook where it was an article where black people every Sunday deposit about $500 million into the church offering every Sunday, and the churches in turn go and they put the money into the banks, and these banks don't give us jobs, they don't employ us, they don't give us loans, and so forth and so on. But to my point, and to your point actually, it is up to the church. It is up to the church, and we as Black America, we are responsible for trillions of dollars that we spend every year. Why on earth can we not build our own schools? To me, it's some hard work. But anything worth having is going to be some hard work. But there's no.
It's going to be hard work.
Yeah, but there's no reason why we as Black America can't build our own schools. We have administrators, we have teachers, we have people like myself with MPA degrees, we have people with MBAs, we have doctors. Why on earth can we not, community by community, build our own schools, because we have the money to do it.
Absolutely. And Randall, you're in a vein that I'm in, because in this world doesn't love our children.
No.
You understand?
No.
The world doesn't love our children. So it's not that we, are mean people. It's just that how do we, of all cultures of people, how do we now come together and build on our strength? My strength is literacy. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So if I can do this here, I can do this anywhere, which will now cause our kids to be the mathematicians, to be the engineers, to be the scientists. It won't only just be the cream of the crop or the elite. That when I go to churches and they're giving out scholarships, and most of the time the scholarships, the majority of them that go to women, a couple go to young Black men, and they say, hey, we want to give you an award. And I said, I'm really not worried about this award because I'm looking at about 10 to 12 kids getting a scholarship. They are the cream of the crop. What about the kids that are falling through the cracks?
Yeah,
That's what I that's what I want to get a grip of. These kids are self-motivated. You know, they have parents that are going to push them, and they have desire. They're enthused about what they're doing. I said, but what about the kids who would be if they just had the additional help that said, okay, let me help you where you're the weakest. Let me help you where you don't understand, because they keep saying they're going to remediate our kids, Randall.
Mm-hmm.
How do you remediate what's never been there? And you said with the special ed, the majority of schools, when you go special ed, the African-American kids are in special ed.
Yeah.
They say the little boys are special ed because they can't sit down. Well, how about stop trying to teach them the same way that you've been teaching all kids and understand how to teach a black boy? That's what I did. In my class, you could move. In my class, you can get up. In my class, we took a break, and you didn't have to talk about everything that was going on in the lesson. You had an opportunity to now have a conversation. But once I started teaching, you couldn't have that conversation. So in my class, I looked at different ways, because I was a teacher too. I looked at different ways to address my kids. I had a kid who couldn't read. They brought him, and he was bad. He threw chairs and desks at everybody. He never threw one at me. He ended up graduating high school, playing football. Why? Because I taught him totally different than the rest of the kids, because I realized he couldn't read. And he said to me, I don't understand. Can you help me understand? And I did, sir. I broke the rule.
Yeah, well, good for you.
I broke the rule. We need some more rule breakers. You know, people that will cross the barrier. People who are willing to say, I will do what it takes. I might not be popular with it, you know, and right now a lot of people may not be investing in me, but before it's all over, they will, because it's going to show a difference in our kids because the public school is not going anywhere, Randall.
No, it's not.
So if it's not going anywhere, and the majority of our children can't afford private school, and you have to wait to get in charter school, because I don't have a problem with school choice either, but you have to wait to get in it, then what am I going to do to make that child, prepare that child, and make that child successful in a system that cannot do it by themselves?
We're speaking with Dr. Roma Benjamin. She's the former principal of Roland High School in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and she's also the pastor and founder of the Roma J. Benjamin Ministries and Greater Faith Ministries of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Dr. Benjamin, if you could please speak to the level of success you're having with your reading center, testourkids.com.
Well, the level of success has been tremendous, Randall. Like I said, I started initially in my church, but it has expanded outside of my church. I renovated an area in my church, and I began to train young people from my church how to do this. Now it has expanded. I have 2 centers in 2 other churches in the city of Harrisburg. I am working with another daycare who is adjacent to my church, and I'm in the process of working with a church out of York, PA. And then, you know, I'm talking back and forth with some people out of Atlanta as well as out of Syracuse, and then I consult a church that I helped open a center in Maryland. So it's taken, you know, it's taken off. It's doors are opening. God is making provision. I'm getting an opportunity to speak on radio programs like yours. People are asking to feature me in their magazines, and just different things. And word of mouth has been very good for me. So different things are happening that, you know, lets me know this is not in vain. You understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
This is not in vain. This is not in vain. This is a mandate that I believe that is from God, and I am out here. I'm available to help any pastor, any church. And if you say, you know, some churches say, well, we already have a system up, that's fine. If you don't, I'm your girl for this hour to help, you know, for us to bring some type of healing to education. And it's going to come through the church. It's going to come through people like you and I, who are really concerned with our children.
Also, if you could please speak about a new sound technology and learning center.
You know, sir, the reason why New Sound is a strange name, because I was trying to name it something else and it just didn't work, and the Lord gave me New Sound because the sound in the earth now is no longer failure.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we do is, and I work with the majority of young men, it's open to ages 5 through 14. That's kindergarten through 8th grade for now, because I felt the need is in the early ages of school. And I opened it up initially to young men, but I started getting requests for girls. And so our focus is intensive reading instruction. And so because it has been successful on this level, I'm opening it up throughout the region of Harrisburg. And it's going to extend not just in the state of Pennsylvania, but in other cities and other states, because we have to address this this terminology that has been placed on our children. We call them functional illiterates. I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
We have all kind of psychological terms. Dysfunctionality and just stuff that people accept. No, I don't accept that functional illiterate. And so that's what New Sound is about, bringing back excitement to reading, bringing back the fun and the fundamentals of learning how to read, knowing the sounds of the letters that the letters make, able to spell and not use this inventive spelling, able to comprehend what you read and not read it and not know anything after you've read it. And that's what New Sound is about. And it's also about raising up young men and women to be able to be a role model and a mentor to our younger generation, so that they could see it not just from an older adult, but from adults who are not too far removed from them. That's what New Sound is about, sir.
And finally, our children need up-to-date learning resources, say like books,
Yeah.
computers, technology, etc.
Hmm.
What are some funding options we can have? What are some of the funding options uh, that we may have in the urban community?
What I did, I started researching what was going on locally. And I found out that a lot of foundations will give, especially if you have a central focus. And a lot of them will give money to those that are dealing with literacy. And so foundations are excellent to go through. Also, some of the community things like Salvation Army and different people who are always giving to people, food and clothing and shelter. And then, when they find out that you're giving in another manner or measure, like I'm giving literacy, I'm giving them an opportunity to not always be on the line to get food, but to literally be able to have a job and make money to pay to buy their food. And so those type of entities, I try to stay away from the governmental grants, because I don't want them telling me what to do or what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ask for donations. We're getting ready to set up a process to deal with business owners, going to businesses and let businesses know what we're doing, because they are affected by this as well, children in their neighborhoods and, in the malls and the things that they have to go through. So they are affected by it as well. So there are a lot of things out there, Randall. Sometimes you just got to get a team of people together and start researching it, and you'll find it, because it's out there. There are people that when you tell them what you're doing, they'll help you. And Randall, what I'm doing is really not new. I'm just going about it a different way.
Okay.
You understand? The ideology behind this, that I could teach these kids to read, and I could teach people to teach kids how to read, and I can have a sure focus on literacy. I'm just going about it a different way.
We have been speaking with Dr. Roma Benjamin, former principal of Roland School in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And she's also the pastor and founder of Roma Benjamin Ministries and Greater Faith Ministries of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Dr. Roma, if you could, please feel free to plug your website and any other work or projects that you're involved in.
Yes, my website is www.newsound, the whole word, newsound, L as in literacy, T as in technology, C as in center.com. My number to reach me is 717-545-4594. I could be reached there if you don't get an immediate, if someone doesn't pick up immediately, you will get a call within 24 hours. I believe in returning calls immediately. I'm also working with charter schools. I'm meeting in the very near future with a charter school with students, all boys from grades 6 through 8, to look at what can I do to now help them attain this goal in literacy. So they're different. I'm connecting with the public school as well to extract their students who are either struggling readers or non-readers, and to put them in my center and to send them back successful. So there are varieties of things I'm doing, but everything is rooted and embedded in reading.